Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Money Chats with Shalise. This is a podcast that I started just to, give some detail and some background and history to our financial journey. I do have another channel, Mommy Trader. I just reached 12,000 subscribers over there. So if you want to see like investing tips, wealth building tips, assets, things like that, just all ways to grow your money, make sure you follow me over there. But on here, I like to give some of the in between, some of the behind the scenes that I'm usually not able to share over there, because of the algorithm and you're trying to stick to, one niche. But having this podcast allows me to really express a lot more of the in between that I don't get to share. So please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. Also, we are doing a giveaway now. I announced the giveaway in my last podcast video, which is episode 9. So I'm not going to reveal what the giveaway was here. You got to go back and watch that specific episode. That way you can watch the video and get all the details. But the giveaway ends Friday, and I announce the winner in my community tab here on this podcast channel on Friday around probably like 12 p.m. Eastern Standard, and it's for a $25 Amazon e-gift card. So again, make sure you go back to that previous episode, episode 9, and get the details for that giveaway, okay? But in today's episode, I just wanted to spend some time talking about the cost of being poor and everything that I talk about on my channel, over on Mommy Trader or here on the podcast. I have a cash stuffing channel, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. I talk often about how I do not come from money. I don't come from wealth. I don't come from a silver spoon. If anything, I come from plastic spoons. I know what it feels like to grow up on welfare or food stamps, Medicaid, excuse me. Free lunch, all of the bit. So I am speaking from experience versus something I read in an article. But speaking of articles, I did come across a great read talking also about the cost of being poor that I will link below. It's a really, really good read. I think you guys should read it. But as someone who came from that place, I 100% agree with everything that this article said. I've seen people that I know in my own life, family, friends, acquaintances from around the neighborhood, all express these different types of issues around the cost of being poor, whether indirectly or directly, whether they knew what they were talking about or not. It was just, one of the things that, I my experience was when people express themselves. I mean, especially when it came to money and finance. A lot of that expression was, um, mostly the negative side of money. I don't have enough money to do this. I don't have enough money to pay my bills. I have to borrow this money, eviction notices, things like that. It was always, the negative side of money. It was rarely ever the positive side of what money could do. It could be a blessing to other people. You could, get ahead on your bills. You can save for a vacation. You could, just do some of the things that you really wanted to do in your life. But one of the things that really, really, I would say shines a light on the cost of being poor is housing. Um, Growing up, I think in the late 90s, my grandma bought her first house. And she had to be at that time in her late 40s. And she bought her first home in the country in the South. Outside of her, I knew no one who owned a house. All of us were renters, and there's nothing wrong with renting. I want to make sure I get that across. There's nothing wrong with renting. But the people where I grew up, everyone wanted to own a house. So it wasn't like they just wanted to rent because, they felt like, they weren't wasting their money, or they felt like, they could do other things. They wanted to own a house, but they had no choice but to rent. And I think we're seeing a lot of this nowadays with inflation and the increased interest rates and things like that. But back then, I'm talking about 90s, early mid 90s. Remember, I'm 38. So this is like, pre-teen years, teen years, somewhere around there, mid to, 90s. And one of the things that people had to really except was, they had to rent. And the thing about when you're renting and you don't make a lot of money, or if you consider yourself poor, is that you're at the mercy of someone else. If someone else decides to increase the rent or they add on extra fees, a lot of times they don't keep up with the property. So you're living in slum-like conditions, paying top dollar rent, right? And some landlords know this because they know, well, where are you going to go? Again, when it comes to housing, credit, right? Most people, especially, again, I'm speaking from experience here. Credit was not like something we talked about. And that's something I wish I would have understood more of as a young adult, the importance of good credit. But we just, again, it was just financial literacy, lack of knowledge. We just didn't know how important credit was then. And when you have people who don't have a lot and they don't understand how credit works, and remember, a lot of landlords know this, and I'm a landlord, but I don't use that and hold that over, our tenants. But a lot of landlords do. They know where you're going to go. You don't have good credit. You don't have, enough money to actually move and then put first month's rent, last month's rent, and a deposit and all of that stuff down. So what do people do? They're kind of stuck and they don't have a choice but to continue to, like pay the increased rent. And so what happens is that instead of, wanting to get a step ahead to have home ownership, guess what happens? You stay in that same place. And then if you have children or grandchildren, then there's multi-generations in that same place as well. And again, most low income people don't own homes and they want to. That's the thing. A lot of them want to, but with the cost of everything going up now, I mean, again, you think home ownership was hard to attain in the 90s? It doesn't hold a candle to trying to own a home nowadays. It's just nearly impossible if you don't have a whole lot of money to put down on a house. And again, let's say you were of low income and you wanted to buy a house. With the market that we're in right now, people are overbidding and they are, throwing in all these extra things. And so, I get it and I understand. And, it really sucks that it costs so much just to have a place to live. And this is why I'm on YouTube trying to educate people in terms of investing and managing your money well and being good financial stewards, knowing how to create a side hustle or a side income. Because guess what? The government is not it, right? They're not going to be there to help us and to hold our hand. We got to do that for ourselves. And through God's grace and blessing, we can do that if we're willing to put in the work. So yes, housing is definitely one of those areas. Let's talk about food and groceries. This is this is a good one. If you live in a low income place, and again, I grew up in inner city, in the hood, or whatever you want to call it, the ghetto, whatever it is you want to call it. You know what food deserts are. I mean, talk about a supermarket. We had one supermarket, and it wasn't even like one of the legit supermarkets. It was like one of these generic places or corner stores or poppy stores. Sometimes we called them that, but corner stores. It was like the downstairs of a row home or something, and you could go in and get like eggs, milk, bread. You could get like a lot of like your fast food things like hoagies and fries. And let me just say, as someone who lives in the suburbs now, if you want a decent hoagie, you got to go to certain places you got to go, and you got to go to the inner city for a good pizza, for good hoagies, burgers, fries, all the good stuff, steaks, cheesesteaks, whatever it is, you got to go. You're not going to get it out here in the suburbs. You got to go to the city. Good eating. That's what it was. But in those places, it cost a whole lot of money. I mean, a loaf of bread from the corner store was like $4, $3. Whereas if you went to the grocery store, you could get it for 50% less. But most people didn't have cars. We had to take public transportation, and that's not a bad thing. But when you're trying to go grocery shopping and you have several, grocery items, it's hard to kind of get on a bus with that. And I remember we would take like a rolling shopping cart, not like the shopping carts that's in the supermarkets, but it was like these, oh my goodness. If any of you live in a city, you know what I'm talking about, like these four-wheeled wired carts that you could load groceries in, and you could actually like push it home or something like that. That's what we had. And again, it was because we didn't have access to like really good places to go grocery shopping. So when we did in the off chance go to, let's say, a Save-A-Lot, I don't even know if Save-A-Lot is around anymore. But we would take the push cart there and we would, go get our groceries and then push it home. We would have to walk a couple blocks. Like we're talking about city blocks here. So, maybe, 8 or 9 blocks home. But that's what we had to do. And other times in between, we would go to the Poppy store to get, like cereal or things like that. I remember clear as day just talking about it, going to get cereal. My mom asking, we need some, cheese or eggs for breakfast. Go around to the store, and get some things like that. I mean, but again, it costs more. And because people who don't have the means to have a car, they're almost stuck in that position. So groceries and food cost a whole lot more than it would if you had the financial means and you had a vehicle, right? But talking about the next point, transportation, it costs money to have a car. Oh my goodness. Excuse me, guys. I remember when I got my first car, it was a 94 Honda Civic. It was black. I named her Black Beauty. I don't have her anymore. But I remember when I had my first repair. So I bought the car outright. It was $2,000 then. And I remember maybe about 2 months later, I had my first car repair. And this is not the downside, but again, the cost of being poor. You need a tire. Well, I don't have the money to get a good tire. The tire that I know has good reviews, that's going to last a long time, that's going to be able to keep the car safe in all types of weather conditions. I had to get the tire that was cheap, right? From the local mechanic. I'm not even talking about going to like Pet Boys or anything. I'm talking about, and again, if you grew up how I grew up, the local mechanic. And, I just had enough money to get like the cheap tire. And if you know anything about keeping up with cars, you really need, if you're going to like spend money or anything when it comes to, like stuff, spend the money on making sure your car is running well. I'm not saying you got to get the most fanciest car. I'm saying when you got to get your car repaired and you're buying like new tires and brakes, you don't want to skimp on that. But that costs money. Transportation costs money. And so taking the bus overall is just cheaper for most people. But having a car can give you access to more job possibilities, right? More housing possibilities versus if you didn't have transportation and you're stuck. And then if you wanted to buy a car, let's talk about financing. If you're lower income or poor and don't have the best credit, guess what? And don't get me started on not just the normal car dealerships. Okay. I'm not talking about Toyota or Honda or anything. Again, you know what I'm talking about, like these makeshift rinky-dinky car dealerships that pop up in the inner city that will sell you a lemon for like a whole lot of money. You drive it off the lot and something's wrong. I mean, come on, guys. You guys know what I'm talking about. And what they'll do is they'll prey on the poor. They'll prey on people who don't have a lot, who don't understand a lot. And they'll get you in a 20-year-old car and you're paying $500 monthly payments on a 20-year-old car. But again, because we don't know, we don't understand, of course. And then insurance, right? If you live in the inner city, insurance is just more expensive. That's something I learned when I moved out of here in the suburbs. We pay, I'll give you a great example. My husband and I have 2 cars. We've been living out in the suburbs pretty much since we got married, and we'll be married for 18 years in June. So we've been out here a long while. And right now for 6 months, I lied to you not, for 2 cars, full policy, the whole bit, we pay $489. Yes, you heard me right. $489 for a 6-month auto policy for 2 cars with everything included. Again, because insurers know that, okay, well, if you're in the city, especially in certain parts of the city, they're going to charge you more because maybe your car has a higher chance of getting hit or stolen or something like that. And so, again, it sucks, but these are the costs of being poor. And I just wanted to, talk about this because I've, like I said, I've been there. Next, we're going to talk about healthcare. Okay. So healthcare is, let me just tell y'all, healthcare overall is expensive in this country. It's not even so much income classes, but it does cost more for lower income folks than it does for, higher income folks. First of all, health problems. We know being in poverty or eating from the corner store isn't the healthiest thing, right? But it's easy to just go get Chinese food. I remember growing up, we would always eat Chinese food because you could stretch it. Like Chinese food was one of those things where I could get a platter of one of my favorite Chinese food platters is General Tso's chicken with fried rice and broccoli. That could last me 2, 3 meals easily, like easily. And it cost not even $10. 3 meals. And I would feel full. Okay. Not trying to skimp. I would feel full. And then I remember the Chinese stores we would go to, um, when we would get Chinese food, would give us like a free soda and free egg rolls with it. So it was a lot of food for a little bit of money. So we were full as kids, but that's not the healthiest foods. And this is, there's data and statistics about this. You don't come across a lot of produce, a lot of good fruits and vegetables, a lot of good lean meats that are healthy, like chicken breast. We had growing up a lot of drumsticks, which is probably the worst part of the chicken. But that's what we had. That's what, again, our parents, the adults then, that was what they knew. And so, like I always say, I don't fault them because they did not know. But now in this day of age where we know better, we do a little bit better. Also, sometimes, like if you're in certain apartment buildings and the landlords aren't keeping them up, you got mold and dust and different things, which can cause, health problems and all that. And then access to insurance, right? First of all, hospitals are not plenteous in poorer neighborhoods. They aren't. I mean, you may have like the little clinic, which was always so busy and backed up. But outside of that, the hospitals were so far away. Same with like dentists and eye doctors and things like that. I can tell you this. I did not really go to the dentist to get a cavity filled until I got married. Growing up, I did not go to the dentist at all. No, I went once to the dentist because it cost my mom money. And it was just easier just to tell us to brush our teeth. But having those regular dental checkups, it's a privilege. And so I try to take advantage of that. My husband has health insurance, good health insurance. Listen, because I know how it feels to not have access to good health care. I go to everything. Okay. GYN, regular doctor, eye doctor, dentist. I mean, I go to everybody because I understand the luxury it is just to be able to get a checkup from a doctor. Again, because you don't have access to all of that money, right? I mean, a standard dental cleaning is what, like $350? I'm like, and that's why I always look at the bills when I get those statements because I'm so shocked. Like, if we didn't have insurance, we would have to pay all this much. And think about it. Most people who don't have, who are who are poor or low income, and I hate using that word poor, they just don't have the money to get, and they want to get, it's not like they don't want to get health care or health services or go to the doctor. They just don't have the money. I knew growing up, there were people who specifically said they were not going to the hospital. If they died, it was their time because it was going to cost so much money to get treatment, right? And because they didn't have jobs that had good health insurance, right? If you're working at like a fast food place, if you're working at a retail store, you're not going to have access to like the best health insurance, right? They're not going to offer that. So, I get it and I understand. That's why I try to, really make sure I take advantage of that. Let's talk about just banking and financial services. So, okay, let me just tell y'all, I did not step into the bank on my own until I was 16. I lie to you not. I got my first job. Fun fact, my first job was at Burger King. Okay. And, I would get my checks and I would go to the check cashing place. Now, do any of you guys know what a check cashing place is? It's kind of like a bank. You can go there with the check. You pay a fee. Now, the fees are usually much higher than the fee that a bank would charge you. But they would give you your money right away. I would give them my check. They would take out their fee and I would get cash right then and there. Or I could get a money order. So certain things, they wanted a check for or a money order. Well, I didn't have a bank account, so I had to get a money order. But a money order cost money too. So not having access to good banks, we would only have a check cashing place to go to. And don't get me started on payday loan places. These things are like all over areas where, there are poor or low income people residing. They're all over. It's like a plague. And they advertise easy money. Do you need money today? Do you need money now? And it's almost like, sell your soul for it. And I've been there. I'm telling you guys, I have been there where your back is against the wall and you need to do something, because if you don't, you're going to be on the street. And so you utilize these places. Whereas again, if we had financial literacy, if we had good money habits, we would know, what, we need a bank account at a legit bank. We would save some of our money every time we get a paycheck. That way we can have an emergency fund. So that when life happens, when something goes wrong, guess what? We can go to that emergency fund versus going to a payday loan place and selling our soul. Because that's what you're doing. I mean, these people won't let you go. You think you're going in to get $1,000 and you're going to pay them back next month? No, 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 no. It is a cycle that is hard to get out of, and it's designed that way. And the interest is crazy high. Like, it is not odd to have a 100% interest on a payday loan. It is not odd at all. And that's on the lower end. So again, the cost of being poor. Let's talk about childcare, right? Because if you're trying to, first of all, if you're a single parent and you're trying to get a better job, let's say you have a car and you can get out to a better location and get a job. Well, you got to send your kids to daycare. Well, guess what? Daycare costs a whole lot of money. And then if you, like, I know in the lower income areas, they have like pop-up daycares is what I call them, or storefront daycares. Some of them are nice. I'll say that, but a lot of them aren't. A lot of them are not licensed and insured. A lot of them don't have qualified people there to really look after children correctly, the right way. And the thing is, if you want to get your kids in a nicer daycare or even school, guess what? It costs an arm and a leg, literally, to do this. I mean, one reason why I backed off from working recently is because my son has autism. So you think daycare or childcare is expensive just with a regular kid? Imagine if your kid had a disability. Increase that price like 50%, sometimes 75%. They always want more because, of course, having a child with special needs is more work involved for them. So they charge more for that. So it comes to a point where, like, is it worth it? No. But again, some people don't have a spouse or a mate that could carry everything. And so, childcare is one of those things across the board. And I don't even think it's just lower income. It's more of a burden on lower income folks. But, across the spectrum, period, it just costs a whole lot of money just to have someone look after your child so that you could go to work. Even if you're in a 2-parent household, right? It's not just a single parent. If you're in a 2-parent household, it's still expensive. It really, really is expensive. Especially if you want your kid to go to a decent place, or let's say school, private school, Catholic school, charter school. I mean, if it costs money, you want to, of course, you want your child to have a good education. You want your child to be exposed and have access to other things, other cultures, people, learn more languages and all of that. But guess what? It comes at a cost. And it sucks that, to get a better education, it costs more money. But, it really, it's just, sometimes you can't help but laugh because it's like, what are you going to do? Right? Like, you try to get ahead and it's like more things trying to, keep you back. Right. Another thing, that, the cost of being poor is like taxes or government. I don't want to say handouts though. An article, if you read it, it'll reference that a little bit. But I remember growing up, excuse me, guys, and tax refund time was like oh my goodness, the coup de grace of the year. Okay. It wasn't Christmas. It was tax refund season. Okay. Because we got a lot in taxes back. And I say we, like I personally got it, but my friends and I knew, my siblings and I knew that February, It was on, okay? All of the kids in the neighborhood had on the best sneakers, the best clothes. We were all going out to eat. We all got our hair done, got some new clothes. We were going to the movies. And one of the things that the government does, and I learned this the hard way, and I cannot be convinced that the government does not do this. What they do is they'll give, because someone asked me before, like, okay, well, if you don't pay a whole lot of taxes into the system, why do the government give you a lot of taxes, like a tax refund back? And I learned over the years, just reading and studying and financial literacy, is that it's almost like, they're giving you a couple thousand, let's say $5,000, but in the small details, they're taking back $10,000. So again, we talked about rent, we talked about financial services, we talked about transportation, food and groceries. Little by little throughout the year, I used to think the tax refund was helping us to get ahead growing up, but it was actually pulling us back, because instead of saying to ourselves, okay, well, we're getting a tax refund because we're not paying a whole lot of taxes in. If we're not paying a whole lot of taxes in, that means we're not, making a high enough income to actually get ahead. And one of the things I had talked to someone recently about, especially with the stimulus checks that we were all getting these checks in 2020 and 2021. One of the things I was saying, I was one of the early people that was saying this, is that they're going to get this money back somehow, some way. They'll give us all $1,500 a couple times. They will increase the child tax credit. But inflation is going to take that money back. Who does inflation affect more? The poorer people, lower income people. Look at it now. The $1,500 checks, the $2,000 checks, however much money we were all getting, then the government has more than twice over taken that money back. Look, I'm not even going to fake the funk with you. They have taken that money back twice over. You want to know how? Through the cost of food, gas. Has your rent gone up? Okay, you own a home. Has your mortgage gone up? Escrow, property taxes? What about health care? Has that gone up? Let's talk about streaming services. Let's talk about vacations. That's gone up as well. So one of the things that I learned is, instead of focusing so much on, tax refunds and all that, which is a blessing, focus more on, how could I build wealth? How could I increase our income? How could I be a better steward and get my money to work for us in multiple ways passively? Okay. So when my husband got his first big bonus, let me tell you, it was so tempting for us just to go on a big vacation and buy a BMW. We actually went to test drive one. But you know what we did instead? We paid off the debt. That was 1 year. Okay, we got another big bonus. Tempted again, but you know what we did? We bought a property. We put a down payment on a house. Guess what? That same rental property is paying us almost $2,000 a month in rent. So again, we charge on the lower side of rent. But the point is that when you use money wisely and you put it in vehicles that will continue to make money for you, you can get out of this system. You can get out of this rut. You can get out of this hole. And let me tell you, I have family members who are still in the struggle. And one of the things that I love to do, though it's not always accepted, is share knowledge. If I knew what I knew now when I was 18 years old, talk about a multimillionaire, my husband and I, we would be. But we started late. But now that we know, we try to impart that knowledge on other people so that they can know, so that they can understand, so that they can do and be better. Teach our children and nieces and nephews. That's why I have the YouTube channel, to help other people to see that there's a more excellent way. There's a better way. If you really want to elevate, if you want to get your family out of poverty, if you want to find another job or switch fields, if you want to figure out how to get your education up for, a prospective employer, how to invest, how to buy real estate, asset building. I mean, all of these things, how to pay off debt, budget correctly, save for emergency fund. All of these things are in that pot of gumbo called wealth. And so, the cost of being poor is high. But I think nowadays, with the access of information we all have, it has never been easier for us to make that change. If that's what we really want, It has never been easier because of the access of information that we have. Anybody can create a side hustle. You can even walk and do Uber Eats. You can walk and do that now. So I hope that you guys enjoy the podcast on today. This was a long one, but this was a good one, though. I thought this was a good one. Make sure, again, that you like, share, and subscribe. Follow me on my other channels. If you haven't, information is always down below. If you need help, like a one-on-one or private groups, our investing study groups, check out my links below to my website. And again, don't forget to enter the giveaway, which ends Friday. And again, it's in my previous podcast video, episode 9. So make sure you check that out if you want to be entered. But again, thank you guys so much. And make sure you check out, I posted a new video, a net worth update. And I talk about, us being silent millionaires. So that's on my Mommy Trader channel. Again, thank you guys so much. And until next time, I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.